This morning, well, let's speak to the former Conservative leader and prominent Brexiteer, Iain Duncan Smith. Not a great start for the Prime Minister, is it?
Well, you know, people resign. I resign myself on matters of principle. I mean, I'm sorry to see he's gone, but obviously he feels strongly about it. I wasn't aware of that, but I don't think it will change anything today. I mean, people will have made their mind up whichever way they want to go, so I don't think it changes any of the terms of the engagement on the debate today.
It could change how many people are rebelling in the House, though, couldn't it? It was just 6, it could now be 7.
Would it really? I mean, do people need suddenly to discover that somebody else resigned and he now votes? You know, he'll add one extra number to it, I'm sure, but I hope that people will look at it instead in terms of the importance of the negotiations coming up in June and recognise that we need to get this bill through, because this bill is about leaving the European Union, which is what, you know, in 2016 the British people voted for. There's not much point in democracy where you hand a vote to the British public and then you promptly deny it. So we've just got to get on with it, really, and that's the important thing, I think.
But did the British people know what they were voting for? Did they know about actually the nuts and bolts? You know, when you talk to people who voted for Brexit, and there are, as you say, millions of them across the country, it seems, from my experience, that they all had a very different impression as to what Brexit meant, what our relationship with the EU would be after Brexit, what trade would be like, what customs would be like. It wasn't spelt out, was it? It wasn't clear. It was a very generic promise. Shouldn't they now get a chance to then look at what's actually being written down on paper, what's going to be proposed, and decide whether that is what they actually want?
Well, if you don't mind me saying so, I find that whole argument quite patronising, really. When you think that
It's factual. It's what.
Well, no, it's not. Can I just finish? You asked me a question. Do let me finish the answer. I think it's patronising because during the course of the whole of the debate, it was made categorically clear by the then Prime Minister David Cameron, by the then Chancellor George Osborne, by the whole of the Remain team, everybody worthy of note, from I think Neil Kickett onwards, threatened the British public that if you vote to leave, you will have to leave the customs union, you'll have to leave the single market, and therefore you won't be members of those. Now, in the course of the whole of this, that was also reiterated by people like myself and others, which is a vote to leave is a vote to leave those things. And therefore I don't see why suddenly it's an idea that people had no idea. It's always patronising to say that those on the leave side didn't know what they were doing. Those on the Remain side, by the way, did they really know what they were voting on as well? I mean, the fact is, the European Union has called for further and deeper tightening, greater centralisation, huge powers for the ECB. To people who voted to remain, do they think they're remaining in a static organisation or an organisation that is changing dramatically even as we speak? I don't think so.
I did not say that people who voted to leave the EU didn't know what they were voting for. I said that people voted for lots of different reasons. And the customs union was not mentioned on the documentation at that time. It just didn't feature.
Look, we can get into this debate if you like, but I can promise you categorically, if you go back, you will see the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, all of the Remain team, the official Remain organisation, including people like myself on the Leave side, all made it very clear. If you vote to leave, you vote to leave the customs union and the single market. But you know what? I think this is a pointless discussion and a pointless debate. What is in front of the House of Commons today is a set of Lords' amendments, and the Lords were very clear about this, is that they basically want to stop Brexit. These amendments, I hope and believe, my colleagues will look at them and say we need to give the government the power and the authority to go to the June Council, knowing full well that we've passed what essentially is a bill that is about getting that mechanism right so that we leave. There will be other bills on trade and various other aspects of customs that people can discuss what kind of arrangement they have, but today's bill is not about that process. It's about getting ready to leave in a functional way that means the legislation, the laws, actually will be bound back into UK laws. So I hope we will vote to get rid of those amendments, to emasculate them, to change them, and to make sure that basically the Prime Minister goes to June with a very strong hand to play in what is an important set of negotiations on trade.
Do you think the Prime Minister will be in charge in a year's time?
I'm absolutely certain that she'll still be in charge, providing she wants to be in charge. These things are always about the incumbent making a decision themselves, but if she wants to stay there, which I hope she does, then I'm sure she'll be in charge. But what is important...
Do you get a sense that she doesn't want to be in charge? Do you get a sense that she's becoming exhausted by all of this?
No, not at all. I simply say, you know, it's up to her. If she wants to stay, then I'll back her, and so will the rest of the party. So there's no change that's going to take place unless, of course, as I say, she wanted to change, and I don't see any sign of that at all. And the important thing is that she has the authority from this vote today, these votes today and the votes tomorrow, to go back to the Council in June and do a very strong negotiation. I'd like to have a good trading relationship with the European Union, but it's up to them, and I think she needs to be able to have a strong hand to play in that.
OK. Iain Duncan Smith, thank you very much.